What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the new BCS as part of the Big Bets on Campus podcast. I'm Stuckey, and joining me, as they do each and every Monday afternoon, the other parts of the new BCS. Brett McMurphy, Collin Wilson, and of course, as I said, I'm Stuckey. Each week, if you're new here, welcome. If you're not, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, do the same wherever you follow our podcast as well. A couple of programming notes. Group of five guys will be back early. Well, I guess it's midweek. They record Wednesday. Collin and I record Thursday for the entire weekend betting preview. That'll be out late Thursday night. We also record a portion, the 3 and Out portion at 6 p.m. Eastern live on our new BBOC YouTube channel. And then live show 10:30 a.m. Eastern each and every Saturday. And then the recap episode. So just jam-packed. 959 bad beat for the voicemail. Don't forget about that. Gentlemen, we are about to enter the month of October. One of the best betting months and just months for sports of the entire year. Just throw in some playoff baseball. Just got done watching that insane Mets-Braves game. I can't recall a bigger roller coaster in a regular season baseball game with, when you consider the stakes that were on the line. You got to go back to maybe 2011 Rays, Yankees, but college football too. It's just going to be an amazing month of games. This weekend, good matchups. There's good matchups every weekend from now until we crown a national champion. But next weekend, man, you want to talk about a slate that's sexy. Next Saturday is it. So as we do turn the page to October, key takeaways is what I'm looking for here. Maybe just one key takeaway of the season. Brett, I'll start with you.
Yeah, Stuck. Before the season, I thought that the champion of the SEC and the Big Ten would not go undefeated. I still feel that way. I think maybe you could even have 2 lost champs from both leagues. I mean, other than Texas, nobody has really looked unbeatable, and Texas really hasn't played anybody. They beat Michigan, but I still think Michigan's a 7-8 win team. So I guess I'm waiting to see if that happens. And like you said, I think we'll find out more of that when we finally get to October, when some of these teams start facing each other and beating up on each other. Like you said, next week we have a lot of massive matchups, and then I think we'll see some cannibalization, if you will, between we've already seen it in the Big 12 and to some extent the ACC, but then I think we'll start to see it in the Big 10 and the SEC as well.
Yeah. Brett, you said Texas hasn't played anyone. The disrespect to not Michigan, but UL Monroe. UL Monroe has not lost another game besides Texas. They even won this past weekend throwing for, 50 total yards with 3 quarterbacks. So
my apologies to the Monroes.
I think they already went over their win total, right? UL Monroe.
Yeah, I'm glad that we didn't have it under there. But I mean, there have been signs with ULM that they were improving, and we liked their coach before at other stops. So, and the Sun Belt's wild. We know it's absolutely wild. I mean, even Sam Houston beating Texas State. Did anybody else have that on their radar? That was a number that steamed, and everyone wants Texas State to win the Sun Belt. I love it. I love it. As far as
who's the favorite? Who's the favorite in the Sun Belt now? Do you know?
No, I don't. I haven't looked at the odds board yet.
That would be. Let me double check.
It's not App State.
Madison, right? James Madison.
JMU.
Yeah.
James Madison Dukes, who I think I've been getting very unlucky on some win totals, but I never panic about win totals the first month in. There's a bunch of injuries, results. Futures off to a good start as far as conference futures. Iowa State way down. Clemson is in a good spot, and JMU. We'll talk each and every episode from here on out. We're going to talk futures. We'll go through conferences, Heisman, national championship. We'll give out a few that we like if we do see any value on the board. So that's coming up just as a teaser. But Collin, what do you want to throw in the ring?
Well, Alabama 8-1's looking pretty good for the SEC too for our podcast listeners. I think,
and for Brett and I's trip.
Yeah.
I would like Georgia in the rematch.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, considering
we're off to a good start here.
Yeah, I have a national title on Georgia, which probably, but it's kind of a quandary I got in, but at least the first part of it played out. I think there's a really big takeaway for me, being the fact that almost everything I do is numbers based. One of my biggest tasks in the off season is grading transfer portal activity and returning production. And frankly, I think with what's happened in college football over the last 2 years, I think the way that we grade teams in the offseason is broken. I'm looking at my list right now. Now, in the Action Network Power Ratings, you can get a plus minus of 12 points in the offseason, 7 to your offense, 5 to your defense, and it's just based upon returning counting stats with a little bit of grading from PFF in there. I think the model's broken. Here are some of the teams and some of the – I'm looking at the list right now. James Madison, minus 10.5 on their power rating coming into the season. Rice, plus 8 coming into the season. These numbers are all experience-based. Eastern Michigan, minus 10. They haven't looked that bad. San Jose State, minus 10. I mean, they should not have had a minus 10. And the transfer
all you need is Nick Nash. You don't.
Yeah. I think maybe it's just maybe we need a wider discussion, internally, externally, like how do you grade a team in the offseason now with the transfer portal and the players you bring in? You don't know how they mesh. You don't know if one player can translate and turn a program around. I mean, you get 3 or 4 good games of Cam Ward, and then finally you have the blowout against havoc-minded Virginia Tech. It's been really hard to gauge these teams in the offseason. I think the biggest takeaway for me is maybe we need to have a massive tweak in the offseason.
Yeah, that's one of my big takeaways too. I'm definitely going to overhaul my process. Already started to do it in college basketball because the first month of the season, I talked about this a lot. Like these teams are so drastically different, right? And I have to just change the way I derive my initial power rating, because then I can throw everything else off. And it's not just 3 or 4 guys. You got to figure out the drop off between these. There's entire rosters that are overhauled. Right. And then you have to deal with the fact that you don't have many valid data points early in the season. And because of all of the roster, there's just more variance in results. Like you could have a team, there's just more Jekyll and Hyde in the first month than I think we've seen in the past. Would you agree?
I might. Yeah, there is. And I think basing so much power rating based on experience, maybe it's time to veer away from that and look at how coaching staffs handle new guys coming in. I might end up taking your lead, because in college basketball, you got a big one. Like I have to mention the Arkansas Razorbacks. 11 of the 12 guys on the roster are brand new, and those 11 guys were all the top players on the teams that they came from. So Coach Cowell, his first day was, I met the team. There is no team. That was the truth. But now you have the best player from Florida Atlantic. You have a group of guys from Kentucky. You have the best Bienvenu from Tennessee. Like I might take your lead on how do you grade them to power rate them to start of the season. So when these Ole Misses pop up in college football, how do you not overpower rate them before Kentucky punches them in the face? Like it's going to be a job this offseason.
It only took Collin 10 minutes to mention Arkansas basketball and go through the roster.
Stuckey, we've cashed our ticket. It's not even October yet. Collin's done talking Arkansas football, and he's already talking Arkansas basketball.
That's what happens when you get Tennessee on deck.
Yeah.
By the way, Collin, I'm a stubborn man. I might be back in your Razorbacks this weekend.
I think we're going to play first half. I know, and it sucks, especially like our safety play has been pretty bad. But when you take a timing offense, I want to go a little bit deeper on what Heupel does in the first halves after having a break. Those timing offenses.
Well, he is the most profitable coach in NCAA history against the spread in the first half. I think Brett played first half already.
I did. Yeah.
He is the most profitable coach ever.
After not doing it for the first 5 weeks. Yeah. It's like, it's stupid. Just, yeah. They've got a week off. It's not like they've been off 3 months. I mean, they'll be fine.
Arkansas corner play is good. The safeties have been really bad, so it's going to be an interesting.
Can their O-line hold up? Well, we'll talk about that later in the week.
All right.
My other biggest takeaway: the data points still matter, and I mean the good thing is now we have a pretty good baseline for these teams, so I don't feel as lost as I did in the first month. Like an Ole Miss, right? Ole Miss, is talent-wise, is going to blow out the teams that they are so superior to, and then they face Kentucky, and the weaknesses come out. Talked about this last week, their offensive line, right? That was the one part of their roster where you look just talent-wise, didn't really measure up to like an elite SEC team where people were talking about Ole Miss, and Kentucky exposed that for sure. So now you're hearing rumblings of Kiffin to Florida. Brett, are you hearing that?
You're just now hearing that. Yeah, that's been going on.
No,
for
I
a
mean,
while,
like, they're
Stuck.
picking up. The talks are like really picking up.
I don't think any quote talks are picking up. I mean, he is without question the number one, number two, and number three candidate. Yeah, the big donors on campus, that's who they want. They want Kiffin. And the issue, not the issue, but the challenge was going to be if Ole Miss is in the playoff, do you wait to make that decision? Yes, you do wait if you have assurances from Kiffin and his camp that he will take the job. But yeah, Stuck, I don't think this is any surprise that Kiffin's at the top of Florida's list. Something to keep an eye on. It was just a couple of years ago that Kiffin, back in 2022, was mentioned very frequently being as a possibility for the Auburn job. And some people even reported that it was his job, that he had basically gave a verbal agreement to take the job. And then there was some pushback on that. But ultimately, he was basically the guy that Auburn wanted. Once that happened, Ole Miss lost their final 4 games. I don't think Ole Miss is going to lose out, but that's something to keep an eye on based on what happened just 2 years ago. Instead, of course, Auburn went with Freeze after the firing of Brian Harsin.
I wanted to wait to ask Brett this question right here at this moment, which is Kiffin last week gets a little chippy about Hugh Freeze. The whole statement of, you're just going to try to steal our NIL collective.
Yeah.
And that's after you just tried to buy off all of our coaches. I think I get Kiffin was trying to be chippy with Hugh Freeze, but at the same time, I think you just kind of verbalize something that we all knew, is that you're kind of frustrated with the funds that you have at Ole Miss. And Brett, this is something you've said, that Florida, from a deep pockets perspective, is much deeper. So did Kiffin kind of let it out of the bag there when taking a shot at Hugh Freeze? Is like he's not happy with the money situation at Ole Miss?
I just think he's frustrated that, he doesn't have all the resources that other schools at other programs do. And that's, when we talked about Ole Miss versus Florida, last week or the week before, that's the biggest thing. Forget about the win-loss record. It's the resources of the school, how deep are the pockets of those donors with the D. And ultimately, that's what attracts him to Florida. That's what makes Florida a better job. I know he's King Portal, but recruiting in Florida, 1,000,000 times better than recruiting the state of Mississippi. Collin, I don't know if he necessarily let it slip. I think it's something he said privately. I don't think it's any a big secret. Maybe just some of these frustrations are coming out now publicly with maybe some things that are going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, can see that for sure. The Auburn does go to Georgia this week. I'm not sure we'll break that game down. You could make a case for both sides. I don't want any part of Auburn. Like, you could say Georgia's going to come out angry here, and they should be able to roll. But you have to remember, it works both sides. Just because they lost that game, that was emotionally and physically draining, right? So they could come out a little flat, just fatigued mentally, right? Like, you had that crazy attempted comeback. I think eventually they'll end up blowing out Auburn, but I could see them being maybe a little sloppy. So I think you might see a battle at like 24, goes to 24.5. Maybe people are scooping that up. So I'm not in love with, if I had to bet it, I would bet Georgia or nothing. But again, Colin, do you want to add anything?
What happened last year? Go ahead and finish what you, because I think we've got a bet lined up for Thursday. Like, what are you leaning towards in this game?
In Georgia, Auburn?
Yeah, because there's a cap here, if you remember last year.
I mean, I don't know. I just said I don't like it. So what are you trying to lead me to?
So Peyton Thorne drilled the Georgia defense on outside zone. Just got outside the tackles and went crazy.
Which they just saw with Milroe and adjusted to.
And their numbers are sagging pretty bad. Again, rushing success rate 70th defensively, and outside zone they haven't been able to defend. So is that Milroe taking advantage, or are they still bad at what Peyton Thorne does best?
No, yeah, I could see that going two ways. It's a good point, because I thought about that too. But they did adjust well in the second half a bit to what Milroe was doing. They were kind of stringing him out more. So does it help that they just saw Milroe, right? And now they're going to see Thorne and that rushing attack? It could. But maybe they give them trouble again in that same department, and they try to shorten the game running the ball. The thing is that what I keep coming back to is Thorne's probably going to throw 2 pick sixes. I am still disgusted that Auburn didn't cover. I mean, unbelievable. That's the roller coaster that is Peyton Thorne. It's a ride I didn't enjoy. I ended up vomiting at the end. And I'm usually good on roller coasters, but not that one. Let's transition to the futures market. Or Brett, I should ask you, do you have any, if you had a gut feel, does like Georgia come out, destroy them, or are they like a little emotionally flat? Do you have any gut feel there?
I think both teams are flat. I mean, Auburn's coming off the devastating loss to Oklahoma. And look, I know the narrative is, oh, they're mad, they lost, they're going to come out. Dude, they just played a Super Bowl. I think Georgia
all the way to the end. Like it
right.
Took
well, I was going to say, yeah.
minute.
I think if Georgia would have got blown out 56-7, I think they'd be jacked up this week. The fact they came all the way back and actually took the lead, the emotions of that, and then to lose, man, all the air's out of the balloon. All the narratives, all the touts will be out. Georgia's mad. They're coming in with their hair on fire. I don't buy it. I think it's going to be a hard game to get up for Georgia. I'm not saying Auburn's automatic. I already took Auburn plus 24 and a half. Just by simple human nature, they are going to be flat. But like you said, how many pick sixes is Thorne going to throw for Auburn?
Yeah, that's always the key. But yeah, that's just human nature right there for them coming out a bit flat. I might get you're a braver man than me, Brett. I don't know if I can get there after last weekend. But maybe that's the right side. Speaking of Georgia, Colin, what number do you have on Georgia to win the national title?
5-1.
Yeah, so it's plus 550 now. This might be the time to buy in. I mean, they don't have an easy schedule. So there's the thing is with Georgia is because they still have to go to Texas and 2 Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss doesn't look as tough, but they go to Texas.
That Texas spot is horrific for the Longhorns. They've never been good after Red River.
Yep. The rest of their schedule, I mean, they also host Tennessee. They host Tennessee. So I'm trying to figure out if this is the time to buy Georgia, or, do they lose at Texas, or do they lose to Tennessee, or do they lose at Ole Miss? Because I think no matter what, a 10-2, here, Brett, I'll ask you this. I think a 10-2 Georgia's in, no matter what, with their schedule. Is it 10-3 Georgia in? Or I guess if they go 10-2, they're probably not in the SEC championship.
Well, yeah, that's impossible. I mean, there's a million scenarios. I think 9-3 Georgia gets in. You named all the games they have left. Okay, you lose 2 more against top 10 teams. You're going to win one of those. Plus the strength of the SEC. Look, if Georgia's 9-3, they're going to be among the top 9, 10, 11 teams in the country. That gets them in. It's like something we talked about, I think, in the preseason pod. If you like teams to get to the playoffs, wait till they lose a game. And, I think Georgia's down to, I think it's minus 300 to make the playoff. They were minus $1 billion to make the playoff before the season. So here's a good entering point if you want to do it. But Stuck, I really think you look at the rest of the landscape. Big 12's not getting 2 teams. The ACC may get Miami and Clemson. That's it. You got the Group 5, and then the Big 10. We got to see what happens with Penn State, Oregon. Ohio State obviously will be in, and then I think Missouri's going to shuffle down. I think Ole Miss shuffles down. So you have to put somebody in that 9, 10, 11 spot. I think 9-3 Georgia. It doesn't matter what's happened in the past, but certainly that will carry a lot of weight with the selection committee. So, yeah, without knowing who the losses are to, Stuck, I would say 9-3 Georgia will get in somehow, some way. They'll be on the road first round, but they'll be in.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the only way that the Big 12, I don't really see this happening, but the Big 12 gets 2 teams is if Iowa State runs the table and then loses in the Big 12 championship. That's probably
I mean, that's a possibility, but,
very unlikely.
I think that's less likely to happen than Georgia missing out at 9-3.
Yeah.
BYU 2-0 in conference, 5-0 in the season. They're listed at 15-1 to win the Big 12.
How about Colorado?
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole new dimension with Colorado having this running game. I mean, they're 13-1, and I mean, you look at the standings right now; they're 2-0 in conference. They got 6 more to go. I mean, you could probably end up easily 7-1 here in the championship game. And look at the teams on their schedule; they haven't looked exactly healthy. Oklahoma State, yeah, I mean,
Kansas State's big in 2 weeks in Boulder.
Yeah,
for them.
Yeah, if you like Colorado, you haven't invested. I'm not quite there, but you probably want to do it before that game. That's a good point. But speaking of futures, I don't mind taking Georgia right now. I still think they're the best team in the country. I know that they just lost, but think about it. They were -3 in turnovers. They had a safety. It was at Alabama, and they were down 28-0. Looked shell-shocked to start and still led with 2 minutes to go. It's pretty crazy. So I don't mind taking them plus 550 right now. I would take maybe like half of a bet that you want to make if you like Georgia, and then maybe wait to take another half if they lose another game. And it's not like the odds are going to change that much. But I agree. I think at 9-3, depending on if there's just complete chaos and if they can't drop one to like a bad team. But I don't envision that happening. But let's talk futures here. Just anywhere you want to go with it. I'll start. When I look at, so if I go down conference by conference, ACC, I still see a little meat on the bone of Clemson. Clemson to win the ACC, Clemson to win the Clemson to go to the college football playoff. I think it's like plus 270 out there to win the ACC. There's a chance they're right on par with Miami. Because if you look at Miami, who I think could lose at Cal this weekend, I mean, that's a tough spot, especially if Cal's healthier. But Miami's data points, which we talk about, aren't aging well. USF, great bet by me this weekend. They got destroyed by Tulane. So, that USF doesn't look as strong as maybe some thought. Florida has obviously been disappointing this year. And then Virginia Tech all of a sudden looks like the team everyone thought once they played Miami. They didn't look like that against Old Dominion or Marshall or Vandy. And against Miami, they did. So hasn't really aged that well. We saw the bad side of Cam Ward, and Clemson's defensive line could potentially bring that out. So I like Clemson in the ACC still. I think that there's some value. Big Ten, I mean, maybe Penn State at like 6-1 is interesting to win the Big Ten. Ohio State and Oregon play each other. Penn State hosts Ohio State. I think Penn State has been super impressive. They didn't cover against Illinois. They should have. It was the number one net success rate difference of the entire weekend. There was a lot of games and a lot of good teams played bad teams. They dominated that game. Kotelnicki's a huge upgrade. So because they host, there's a chance Ohio State loses to Oregon and Penn State, and they're out of the Big Ten championship. They're probably still going to the college football playoff if they don't drop another game. But that puts Ohio State into the Big Ten championship. And I don't see any other team. Like Michigan, no. I don't think USC is quite there yet. So I think this is a 3-team race. And Penn State close to 6-1. It's not like Ohio State and Oregon have been completely dominant. Before I give out a couple others, Colin, any thoughts on either one of those two?
Well, I love Penn State because I don't think we've seen the ceiling. I don't think we've seen the offensive ceiling. I would venture to say that they have probably kept a couple things under wraps. They do every year. James Franklin's always keeping stuff back, including Drew Aller's arm last year. And when I look at their remaining schedule, I've got 6 games. They'll be favored by at least 2 touchdowns. Toss-up against Ohio State hosting. And they'll be favored out at USC, a short, a little bit over a field goal out there at USC, maybe up to 7, depends. They're also 20-1 to win the national title. But you're going from 6-1 in the conference to 21 to the national title. You need to get that bye. You need to win the championship. So, you have to do a little bit of math and figure out which one is more profitable. But I can't see a way that they are not playing in the Big Ten championship game. If they do win that, 20-1 is sitting pretty nice, but I don't think we've seen the ceiling on Penn State. Also, ULM is 90-1. They're 1-0 in the West. I get it. They're going to be like 12-point underdogs to a lot of teams over there in the West, but they're 90-1 and they're sitting 1-0 right now in the standings.
Oh God, they can't throw. They can't throw the ball. They literally can't complete a forward pass. Brett, any thoughts there, and any future thoughts you have?
I have one future thought. Matt Mitchell will have a coronary when I say this. You guys may also. We're not even in October yet. I already know who's going to win the Heisman.
Oh God.
You want me to share it with you?
Well, of course. Are you allowed to do that as a Heisman voter? We're all Heisman voters there.
I only have one vote. I don't have 1,042 votes. Call me crazy.
It's not against the rules.
Rack it, save it, whatever. Travis Hunter of Colorado will win the Heisman Trophy. Wow. I believe that everyone else will cancel each other out. And I know what Milroe just did. Travis Hunter, by basically every talking head out there, is the best all-around player in the history of college football. Plays 200 plays a game, whatever the number is. Best defensive back, top 5 or 10 receiver. You guys tell me that. And now the key ingredient. Colorado's actually looks like they can get to 8 wins, possibly. I think that's enough. I think there's going to be an outcry that why does the most outstanding player have to be on a team that's going to the playoff? And I just think because of the publicity machine, the narrative, I know we're going to talk about Genty of Boise State coming up in a little bit. I think people will want to zig instead of zag, and for once give it to someone that's not in the playoff. Obviously, we did that last year with Daniels. But yeah, so call me crazy. Hopefully I'll be a little bit more accurate than my Stetson Bennett Heisman long shot before the season. But yeah, guys, I really think he's going to win it. And it's just simply based on the narrative that's already starting to build from people out there about him and the Heisman. And unfortunately, that's what determines a lot of the Heisman winners is the narrative. And I think that snowball has started down the mountain.
If you look at their remaining schedule, Stuck, they will be greater than a 6-point underdog only once the rest of the season, and that should be about 7.5 to Kansas State in that big spot. So I don't know if you wait to see if they win that Kansas State game, because I'm just of the opinion like they've got to win 8.
He's already second favorite now. His number's only going to get smaller. They're off this week. It's only going to get smaller. I wish I would have had this thought when he was 20-1 before the UCF game, but the UCF game just really crystallized it for me that I think he's going to win it. I mean, we'll see. I could be way off, but still 2 months to go.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Utah and the Kansas State games, if they win one of those, could really make it. Because my problem with it is that, like, they play Arizona, Cincy, Texas Tech, Kansas, Oak State. Sorry, Brett, but like none of those games are huge needle movers.
But Colorado and Dion are huge needle movers. So I think
I get that, but I'm saying like
that offsets exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
But like Milroe did that against Georgia. There's going to be so many. There's going to be a bunch of like, maybe not in the Big Ten this year, but there will be some in the Big Ten, but a ton in the SEC. Like take the Georgia Texas game. There's going to be where you'll see a quarterback, have an amazing performance, and then leap up. And then late in the year, those teams are playing more.
I agree.
Games, so.
Yeah, I agree with that 1,000%. I just think those guys will kind of beat each other up a little bit. I mean, Ewers or Manning, nobody's won the Heisman since 1991 that did not play every game. I think that eliminates those guys. Whether that's fair or not, we'll see. But Alabama doesn't go 12-0. I think that would hurt Milroe a little bit. Plus Ryan Williams. I mean, Jesus. I mean, he may take half the Alabama votes.
Too bad we can't get him on the board.
Yeah, well, I'm sure somebody will put him up.
He's not the best receiver in the country that's not on the board. That's Nick Nash. I think I would take I would put a couple dollars on Nick Nash just for fun. I don't think he can win, but we might as well talk Genty right now, and then we'll circle back to other futures. I think Genty has a shot. Now, it's not a great shot, and you're probably buying at the very peak of the market right now. But here's his current 12-game pace. 246 for 25-35, over 10 yards per carry, and 39 touchdowns. And you might say, hey, they played Portland State. He didn't do any damage against Portland. They pulled him in the first half in that game. He could have put up 300 in that game. So he's on pace for 2,500 yards and 39 touchdowns. Barry Sanders has the record, single season record, 26-28. So 2,628 yards and 37 touchdowns. I think if he breaks one or both of those, he's got a real shot. I think he's going to New York if he stays healthy. Boise State's probably got to go 10-2 at worst. 11-1 would really help. But he's got a shot there. For what it's worth, Nick Nash's 12-game pace is 150 catches for 1,900 yards and 24 touchdowns. The single season records, receptions, you guys, we'll get the source of Stumper later. You want to put a number out there? Who do you think has the most? What do you think the number of the most receptions in a season is? FBS. Colin?
120. Crabtree.
No. Brett, do you have a number?
105.
158.
Whoa.
But Zay Jones, ECU.
Oh, okay.
2016.
That was going to be the kid from UMass a few years ago.
There was a kid, Inslee from Nevada, who has the yards record. He's the only guy who's ever gone over 2,000 yards. And Nick Nash on pace for 150, 1911, and 24 touchdowns. Troy Edwards has the touchdown record of 27. He also has the single game receiving yards record of 405 at La Tech back in the late 90s. So I mean, if not Nick Nash, I think Nick Nash, if he beats those records, if he has 150 catches and 2,000 yards, unlikely, but it's not like they've played nobody yet. I think he should get an invite. But
Stuck. The problem is, I'm serious. I'll bet you half of the Heisman voters don't even know who he is.
Yes, I agree. He has no chance.
That's the sad truth to it. You know,
Genty does. I think Genty. So, Brad, I'll ask you flat out: if Genty breaks one of Sanders' records,
I think he would get the. I don't think he can win because the reason that you said that Hunter would get dinged at Colorado, the remaining schedule Colorado's schedule is light years ahead of Boise's schedule. So I think obviously breaking Sanders' record would help him. I think he would get a lot of third place votes, second place votes. He'd get some first place votes out west. But because he's not going to be on national television that frequently, or if he is, it's going to be 10:30 Eastern. Unfortunately, I don't think he's got a shot to win it. I don't. He could be the best player. He could break two of the most, unbreakable records ever with what Sanders did. But yeah, I'm afraid, because of the school and the lack of national TV appearances, I'm afraid people will just see his stats and say, okay, that's great. I'll put him third on my ballot.
It's really good for Colorado that they're in the Big 12 and they're playing East Coast games. There's just way more eyeballs. Not like they need the hype machine and the PR machine of Colorado behind them anyways, because God knows everybody in the world is lined up for 2 years to bet Colorado football. But the fact that they're playing East Coast games against UCF just opens up a new voter base that Genty doesn't have.
Yeah, I think if he breaks Sanders' record, goes to the college football playoff, he's got a shot. I got a couple of messages. People who have super long shots on Genty. I think you have a chance at least.
Got to be UNLV first.
Yep. The crazy thing is Barry Sanders' records did in 11 games. 11
Crazier,
games.
he came out at half of those games in the third quarter, and the coaches tried to put him back in the game, and he wouldn't do it. He'd say, "Nah, I pulled my hammy. Let the young kids play."
Yeah, insane season.
Imagine if Barry played 7 years like Bowman.
Yes, who knows what he could have put up in today's day and age. Let's see. Elsewhere, futures, and I'll ask you guys if you have, Colin, I'll see if you have any others. Maybe NIU in the MAC, like 9-1-ish. I know they already lost to Buffalo, which is why you're getting this number. But this is a team that I think has real chops, and I'm not a believer in Toledo. Not a believer in this Miami Ohio team. I like Bowling Green still, but they're at plus 250, so I don't like them in that price range. And they did just lose at home to Old Dominion. Northern Illinois has beat Notre Dame, went on the road against NC State and lost, yes. How many yards did NC State have in that game? 140?
They were beating the box score.
Yeah. They should have won that game. So that defense is real. So that's another one I'll throw out. And
got any love for Central Michigan at 20-1? They're sitting 1-0 in the standings.
Something's weird with that team. I don't hate that. It's the MAC.
Because that number, that field goal kick, I think all of us were calling that they were going to beat San Diego State by 1 point. Pretty interesting.
Colin, I'll ask you, UNLV plus 220.
Yeah.
Is this the wrong time to buy? Because it looks like they might have upgraded a quarterback.
Yeah, they did upgrade at quarterback, but you have to look at their remaining schedule to see if that plus 220. If you want to dip in the schedule, let me look at their projected numbers here real quick. Right, so you do have the game against Boise, where Boise is going to be a favorite by about 3. You do have a tighter game with San Jose State, probably about 7.5, maybe 6.5 in the market. Other than that, Nevada, San Diego State, Utah State, nothing. So I think really Boise State UNLV is a lot like Georgia, Alabama. And you probably want to buy the loser of that game to win the Mountain West, because I don't see a way that – who else is jumping in the Mountain West for the Boise UNLV train that's going on right now?
Yeah, nobody.
Do you guys think the Group 5 team will come from the MAC? Because Liberty, they only have 11 games now with the cancellation. They would have to reschedule one. The American, they're kind of going through some tough times. I don't know. I guess maybe James Madison in the Sun Belt.
I think it's JMU or the Mountain West winner. If JMU runs a table, which I don't know, I don't think they will, but I don't think the MAC can now, because one of those teams had to run, like Bowling Green losing to ODU at home.
Yeah,
cooked.
And Northern Illinois with 2 losses. Yeah,
Northern Illinois lost to Buffalo at home. Didn't beat NC State, so they're cooked. Toledo lost at Western Kentucky. They're cooked. Miami, Ohio, they're already cooked. So I don't think a winner can – I think the MAC's eliminated already. I doubt Liberty – I think Liberty not playing App State, even though they were at risk of losing that game, that hurts them. Like that, they don't have any.
I agree. Right. That's like any strength of schedule that they would have. That was like their only strength of schedule, and App State team that's been getting boat raced by everyone they play. Yeah. It hurts them tremendously.
They said they might want to find another opponent. I mean, who are you going to find? You're going to play like Little Sisters of the Poor? That's not going to help you.
I guess if they were not hoping, but they were thinking if there was, some other games were canceled, then maybe they could pair up with somebody. But I believe that was the only FBS game canceled, so that may not work out.
Yeah, that's a good point. If there is another cancellation,
James Madison.
Yeah, I just can't. I can't see it because the data point with Liberty against Oregon last year, right or wrong, I think it's right. Will show that last year's team played nobody, won all those games, went to a bowl, and got blown out by Oregon. And Boise State should have beat Oregon. So if Boise State wins the Mountain West, you're just not going to put Liberty over them. What's Liberty's best win going to be?
Yeah, I think James Madison.
Western Kentucky.
I'm looking at the numbers, but James Madison to make the playoff at 7-1. This remaining schedule, their hardest game. Their hardest game. I mean, they're at least minus 12 against everybody on their remaining schedule, and I don't see Old Dominion beating them. I don't see Georgia Southern beating them at all. So this is crazy. I mean, this schedule is beautiful for a perfect season.
Yeah, while you're looking, JMU UL Monroe, Coastal at home, Georgia Southern, Southern Miss at home, Georgia State at home, at ODU, at App State, which looks much easier now, and then home against Marshall.
Clemson's got remember, there's no Miami on Clemson. That's why we liked them on our ACC podcast to take a future on them. But if you look at these numbers, they're going to be 7.5 point favorites over Florida State on the road. And
7.5. Try 14.
14.
I'm saying
DJU,
from our
DJU to the bench.
Yeah. That's the power rating I have. I'm just saying there's no sweat this weekend, I think, coming out of that game whatsoever.
Don't say that.
But I mean, when you look at the remaining schedule, and I'm looking at my power ratings, I'm looking at SP Plus, but I mean, there's nothing on here like Pitt 10.
You got to go to Vatech. So do you get
Virginia
that
Tech?
Vatech?
Yeah, even that game is 7.5. So
yeah.
I just don't see it. I mean, Clemson's got a clear path to face Miami in the championship.
Yep. Any other features you want to mention, Colin? Or should we?
What was the other team? What was the other team you wanted me to look up?
I think that was it. Yeah, I don't really. I mean, Sunbelt. It might be interesting if you're looking at the Sunbelt. Is Texas State, JMU are the co-favorites now? And I haven't been impressed with Texas State.
Right.
Louisiana and South Alabama are next on that list.
And Texas State and Louisiana are a coin flip game.
Yeah, I could see Louisiana. Louisiana's impressed me. They actually outplayed Tulane, who then went and dominated USF.
Well, Woolridge, they won that game as Woolridge had the pick six.
Yeah, and a kick return for a touchdown right after.
Mm-hmm.
But they just went and won at Wake. So that's probably who I would target in the Sun Belt. But yeah, we'll do this every week because things change every weekend in the beautiful world of college football. But let's.
Are we
Stuck real quick? I thought of two teams that would be tremendous because it would be chaos for the college football playoff, and that is Army Navy. They both have to play Notre Dame. If somehow they get through the American undefeated, they play each other. They would play each other in the conference championship game. And then they would play their annual Army-Navy game the week after, which would not count towards the playoff or the American Conference. So you could have the winner of the Army-Navy Conference Championship game lose the rematch, but they would still already be set into the playoff because the playoff berths will be awarded 6 days before they play their annual, quote, non-conference game.
Wow.
That will be chaos insane if that happens.
That's insane. I didn't even think of that. Kind of rooting for that now.
Oh, absolutely.
That would
but
be.
Commie Wilson isn't rooting for that, but you and
Commie Wilson.
Commie Wilson and big boners on campus. All right.
I found a James Madison 12-1, so let's make that the official stamp of the. I'm going to put it in the app after the pod. 12-1 to make the playoff because double-digit favorites all the rest of the board. I mean, I'll ask Brett. 12. I don't know this new playoff selection committee. Is 12-0 going to get in versus maybe a Boise 9-3, 10-2, or a UNLV? I don't know if they can top that, but I mean, you're putting up 133 points the last 2 weeks.
Well, the good news is you beat North Carolina, so that gives you a quality win there. One loss Mountain West team, they probably don't get in over. 2 loss Mountain West team versus undefeated JMU. I think JMU gets in.
Yep.
Let's stamp it 12-1.
It would be fitting for JMU and
after the
football
ban.
gods. Yep. Yeah, they couldn't play in their conference championship even though they should have. But what if they go undefeated and they don't get into the college football playoff? They got to be like JMU fans are like, what the hell do we have to do to play in the games that we deserve?
I mean, this wraps us back to the experience factor. Like we completely siloed off UTEP because Scotty Waldron came in from Austin Peay. We did the same thing with James Madison because Chesney came in from Holy Cross without his quarterback Sluka, right? Two completely teams are heading in two different directions. I mean, the offseason, I just wanted to reiterate, the offseason work is going to be lengthy here because it's been tough to guess these portal moves.
One of us siloed JMU. One of us has a JMU 10-1 ticket. All right. It's time for Sources Stumper. I think Collin swept me last week.
Here is your question, Collin. You're first. Name the 4 schools that have never trailed this season.
Texas.
That is correct. Stuck?
I don't know where I'm going after this.
Army?
That is correct.
We got to go James Madison, right?
Nope.
Ooh.
It would be funny if there was a team on this list with a loss, because they only lost at the buzzer.
Second. Yeah.
Trying to think who's undefeated. Iowa State was down. Well, I shouldn't give away.
Yeah, think to yourself.
Indiana?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Indiana.
Tennessee?
Ooh, that's what I want to say.
Tennessee, yeah. Mr. First Half King.
Damn.
Texas.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Texas.
Texas, Tennessee, Army, and Indiana.
Yeah. You guys split 2-2. Jesus, that's worse than Oklahoma State's offense. My bad.
Wait, didn't I get 3 of them?
I only got 1. I only got Texas.
Oh, yep. Sorry, Stuck. 3-1. 12-13-6.
God, Tennessee was my next one.
2 missed extra points.
But you know what? We're playing Arkansas first half this weekend, and that's going to change.
Do you have a bonus, Brett, you said?
Oh, my bad. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. I was looking at this Army stuff. You guys can just throw it out random. First, Collin, you go first, and Stuck goes first. If you both miss, then first one to get it. Name the only school that has started 4-0 in each of the past 4 seasons. Collin?
I heard this weekend.
I mean, you didn't put any qualifications on it, so I'll say James Madison.
No. Yeah, there's no – it's an FBS school.
Right. Okay.
Stuck?
What was I watching this weekend? I heard this.
You're watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
It's not BYU.
Instead, I was watching a bunch of losing bets. Should have just been streaming Mormon Wives on, what'd you say it's on? Peacock.
Hulu.
Instead, I was watching the actual Mormons take my money in Waco. Penn State.
Yes.
Yeah.
Penn State. 14-6.
It's not Liberty, huh? It's not Liberty.
Extra points good.
Huh.
So that's all I got, man.
All right. It's a good one. One more for the road before we go. This week, Conference USA kicks off their midweek schedule. 2 games on Thursday night. Next week, they'll play Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Before you know it, we'll have Maction 2, which we'll always cover here on the show. Collin, any Thursday leans here? I kind of like UTEP, Minor Nation. What a spot. I mean, you got to get over 10. Sam Houston's legit, but coming off that crazy win, short week, UTEP off a bye, which I think is really important for them. They made that, I think, prudent quarterback change. Winless on the year. Minor Nation, show out for me. I'm probably back in the minors here.
Well,
I mean,
mean,
anything between Sam Houston, UTEP, and what do we have? UTEP, Western, or no? So let me say that again. We have Sam Houston at UTEP and Texas State at Troy. Oh man, I think I saw you put a bet in on Troy. Godspeed, my friend. You're gonna advocate for Troy, and I'm advocating for UTEP. Good Lord.
Well, the number's too high, right? And I know that ULM Troy box score was horrific, and I can't remember how many quarterbacks were in that game.
6. Each team used 3, not because of injuries.
Yeah, I mean the number is way too big for what Texas State has been so far. There are a couple things Troy does that can limit this. So the number's just way too high. And the same thing goes for Sam Houston and UTEP. I think the number's way too low. I mean, I make it 13. I think Sagarin's at 14. I don't know what you make the number, but when you look at it, Sam Houston's a more complete team, obviously, but they've had the same strength of schedule. And, again, UTEP's numbers are not near as good because it's been a complete wipe. But at the same time, there are certain things they're doing defensively that, as far as stiffening up at the red zone, they have a good line yards number defensively. Sam Houston runs 67% of the time. So, if there's an avenue, it's the fact that UTEP is top 70 in line yards and stuff rate. So you're going to need all of that against Sam Houston.
Yeah, I'll take it a little more. I just had the spot circled and wanted more than 10. Was basically the logic there. I think Troy only actually I thought that they used 3. They might have just had a quarterback come in and hand it off. Their quarterbacks were 7 of 12 for 71 yards against ULM.
Right.
ULM's quarterbacks were 6 of 11 for 135 yards. Just a disgusting game. I watched the entire thing somehow.
I think UTEP's live in the first half. After that win for Sam Houston beating Texas State is a really, really big deal to that program.
Yeah, an emotional win too, draining and quick turnaround.
Going to El Paso, that's not close.
Yeah,
Texas State coming off an in-state rivalry, they're gonna be flat.
Yep.
I like Troy, and of course our longtime listeners from last year know what UTEP stands for. I agree with it this week. You take them points. Go Minor Nation.
Love it. All right.
Wait, before we go, did you see that Cal in Miami is being called woke versus Coke? That's the funniest thing I've seen.
I've already asked for a t-shirt.
I like Cal. Colin, do you like anything there?
I do like Cal. I'm actually writing that up, and there's going to be some Havoc flavored narrative in there.
All right. That'll do it for us. Thanks for tuning in. It's time for us to go dig up some winners before the full weekend betting preview, which will be out late Thursday night. Again, YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Well, don't do that on YouTube. Just hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave a 5-star review. Really help us out. Do a bunch of giveaways later this week. And we're going to go find some winners and crush the rest of this season. So we'll catch y'all later. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to Colin, Brett, producers, and all of you. Cheers.